It looks like cheese. It pours like syrup. It even smells like truffle, but none of it is what it claims to be. In the United States, these foods fill grocery shelves, products that Europe would never allow to wear the same names. Because over there, labels have to tell the truth, and over here, they only have to sound believable. This is how America ended up eating what Europe banned, because Europe wrote laws to protect what's real, while America wrote rules that protect the ones who fake it. The big picture. In America, you can sell cheese that isn't really cheese, syrup that's never touched a tree, and even coffee creamers that call themselves non-dairy while still containing milk. Take this one, Coffee Mate Toll House Brown Butter Chocolate Chip Cookie Creamer. On retail websites, it's marketed as non-dairy, but non-dairy doesn't actually mean dairy-free. In the U.S., a product can be labeled as non-dairy as long as milk or cream isn't a main ingredient. It can still contain milk derivatives like casein or sodium caseinate, both proteins that come directly from milk. In the U.S., that's completely legal, because here, what matters most isn't what's in the food, it's what a reasonable consumer might believe is in it. As long as the fine print tells some version of the truth, companies can sell the illusion. That's how 100% juice blend cranberry can mean mostly apple filler. Parmesan can contain wood pulp, and truffle oil can be nothing but chemically flavored canola. It's not fraud, it's branding. Across the Atlantic, it's a different story. Europe built entire systems to protect food from imitation. From Italy's Parmigiano Reggiano to Greece's feta and France's Roquefort. There, you can't just call something by a name that sells. You have to prove it's real. These laws don't just protect recipes, they protect trust. But the difference isn't only in the names. It's in the ingredients themselves. Take titanium dioxide, still used in some U.S. mozzarella and processed foods to make them look whiter and brighter. In 2022, the European Food Safety Authority banned it entirely after studies linked it to potential DNA damage. Or brominated vegetable oil, once common in American citrus sodas to keep the flavor evenly mixed. Banned in Europe for decades, and only now being phased out in the U.S. after 2024. Potassium bromate makes bread rise higher, but Europe banned it years ago over cancer risks. Even artificial dyes, red 40, yellow 5, blue 1, carry warning labels across the EU. While in the U.S., they're poured into breakfast cereals without a second thought. Think of a bowl of Fruit Loops bursting with neon colors thanks to synthetic dyes, while the European version uses natural coloring from paprika or beetroot instead. Or Pop-Tarts. In the U.S., they're coated with artificial dyes and preservatives that keep them shelf-stable for months, while in Europe, those same ingredients are restricted or reformulated using natural colorants in simpler recipes. In Europe, any product with those dyes must carry the warning, may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. In the U.S., the same snacks sits on shelves with no label at all, just brighter colors and bolder marketing. None of these ingredients are necessary. They just make food look brighter, last longer, and cost less. And that's the real divide. Europe bans what isn't proven safe. America allows what isn't proven harmful. How America got here. To understand how America got here, a country where additives and imitation foods became normal, you have to go back to the 1930s. The Great Depression had emptied wallets and dinner tables. Families needed food that was cheap, filling, and could last. In 1937, Kraft macaroni and cheese hit store shelves, promising to feed a family of 4 for just 19 cents. The ingredients were simple. Macaroni made from fine semolina, sharp American cheddar cheese with skim milk solids, salt, a touch of sodium phosphate, and artificial color. No fridge, no waste, just comfort in a box. Born from hardship, it became a blueprint for America's future. Food that was affordable, artificial, and endlessly repeatable. Then came World War II, and rationing made real cheese scarce. Kraft's invention turned from a cheap meal into a patriotic staple. 2 boxes of Kraft dinner could be bought for 1 rationing coupon, and convenience suddenly felt like progress. By the time soldiers came home, America was ready for a new kind of comfort: fast, easy, and modern. Factories built for war were repurposed for food. Frozen dinners, powdered eggs, boxed cake mixes, food that could be made faster, cheaper, and last longer. The kitchen became a production line, and the supermarket replaced the farmer's market. Convenience became culture. In the 1950s, Kraft mac and cheese had just a handful of ingredients, mostly cheese and milk. By the 1980s, the recipe had changed. Cheese was still listed, but now mixed with buttermilk powder and artificial coloring to hold the flavor. Today, the list runs over 20 ingredients long. Emulsifiers, flavor enhancers, preservatives, a chemistry experiment designed to taste like memory. But it worked. Convenience became culture. The supermarket replaced the farmer's market. Brands replaced family recipes. And the more we industrialized our diets, the further we drifted from the real thing. Meanwhile, across the ocean, Europe took a different path. In the 1960s and 70s, it began defining what foods had to be. Champagne wasn't just a sparkling wine, it was a region in northeastern France, where the soil, the climate, and the method shaped every bubble. Parmesan wasn't just cheese, it came from grass-fed cows of Parma, and it had to age for at least a year before it could carry the name. Feta wasn't a salty white block. It was a tradition tied to the hills of Greece, made from sheep's milk and nothing else. These weren't marketing slogans. They were declarations of origin, protected under what Europe called Protected Designation of Origin, PDO. It meant that food wasn't just a product. It was a place, process, a story. And the European Union decided the story was worth protecting. Because if anyone, anywhere, could use the same name for a cheaper copy, then the original would lose its meaning and its value. So they drew that line in law. Prove where it comes from or don't use the name. As food production modernized, the European Union began regulating not just what a product could be called, but what it could contain. Under EU Regulation 178/2002, additives, colorants, and preservatives were placed under strict review. Each chemical had to be proven safe before entering the market, not after consumers had already eaten it. That's why many ingredients still common in U.S. foods, from certain artificial dyes to dough improvers and whitening agents, were restricted or banned across Europe decades ago. It wasn't about slowing innovation. It was about protecting public trust and the belief that the food should be something you recognize, not something you need a chemistry degree to understand. Change on the horizon, but eventually every system breaks. And in America, the cracks are finally showing, not in the packaging, but in the people. Rates of obesity, heart disease, and chronic illness have risen in step with the rise of processed food. For decades, Americans were told that convenience was freedom, that saving time was the same as living better. But today, that illusion is wearing thin. More consumers are reading labels, asking where their food comes from, and wondering why something called cheese needs 22 ingredients to taste like one. The term clean label has become a movement. Farmers markets are back, whole food stores are expanding, and products that wear words like organic, grass-fed, or non-GMO now fill entire aisles. But the truth is, America does have food laws. Since 1938, the FDA has published what it calls standards of identity, legal definitions that decide what a food must contain to carry a name. Whole wheat bread, for example, must be made entirely from whole wheat flour. Fruit jam has to contain at least 45% real fruit. On paper, it sounds like protection, but they don't stop a company from swapping fresh ingredients for cheaper additives or using artificial color to mimic the real thing. As long as it fits the definition, it fits the law. Take bread, for example. In Germany, even the kind of rye whole grain bread you'd find in an ordinary supermarket is still made from only a few ingredients: rye grain, water, natural sourdough, salt, and yeast. That's it. In the U.S., a loaf labeled 100% whole wheat bread can legally include sugar, soybean oil, molasses, preservatives like calcium propionate, and dough conditioners to keep it soft for weeks. Both meet their country's food standards. But in the EU, a bread like that couldn't be sold under the name whole grain. It would need another label because the law protects the recipe, not the marketing. In the U.S., the same loaf can still wear the words 100% whole wheat because the law protects the label, not the loaf. And that's the difference in a single slice. One system rewards tradition. The other rewards illusion. And the illusion has become cheaper than the truth. In 2023, a British study called The Broken Plate found that healthier food costs roughly twice as much per calorie as less healthy food. For millions, the math is brutal but simple. Eat cheap or eat real, but not both. And so, the cycle continues. Processed food fills stomachs, but empties diets. It feeds hunger, not health. According to Harvard researchers, poor nutrition adds more than $50 billion in preventable healthcare costs every year. That's the hidden cost of fake food, a price no label ever shows. Europe's system wasn't perfect, but its laws made one thing clear. Authenticity was worth protecting, even if it cost a little more. In America, the system made a different choice. It protected access, not accuracy. And for the few who still make the real thing, the farmers, the cheesemakers, the bakers, most can't compete with cheap, commercialized imitations. And those who can often have to sell at a price that makes them unattainable for the standard American family diet. That's not a failure of taste. It's a failure of the system.